The price of true power. Few are brave enough to accept it. What if I told you that true power, real, life-altering, soul-awakening power, is not something you're given, but something you must choose? And what if I told you that almost no one chooses it, because deep down, they're afraid of what it demands? This isn't about superpowers or dominance. I'm talking about the kind of power that changes your life from the inside out. The power to stand alone in your truth. The power to walk away from everything you were taught to believe. The power to look into the abyss of your own soul and not flinch. That power, the price of true power, is terrifying. And the truth is, very few are brave enough to accept it. Let's start with a brutal question. Are you truly living your life, or are you simply following a script written by someone else? Think about it. From the moment we're born, we're handed a map. Go to school, get a job, find a partner, retire, die. And while that map might ensure safety, it rarely leads to greatness. Why? Because greatness, real greatness, requires disobedience. It demands that you burn the map, wander into the unknown, and trust that you'll find your own path. Most people aren't ready for that level of autonomy. Most people crave certainty more than freedom. But you're watching this because some part of you suspects there's more. And that suspicion, if you're willing to chase it, could be the beginning of your real power.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Here's the paradox. The more we seek comfort, the weaker we become. Comfort is addictive. It numbs our instincts, silences our creativity, and dulls our courage. It whispers, "You're fine where you are. Don't rock the boat. Don't ask too many questions." And yet, every great soul in history, every philosopher, artist, leader, and rebel chose discomfort over stagnation. Socrates chose death over silence. Buddha left a palace to seek the truth. Even in modern times, anyone who's changed the world has had to walk away from the crowd. So I ask you, what are you willing to suffer for? Because that's the price of power. You don't get it for free. You earn it with sacrifice, with isolation, with relentless self-inquiry. Most people think power is about control. But the truth is, true power is about surrender. Not surrender to others, but surrender to truth. And truth is rarely convenient. It will cost you your illusions, your attachments, your identity. It will strip you bare until there's nothing left but the raw, unfiltered experience of being alive. Are you willing to let go of who you think you are in order to become who you really are? That's the question that terrifies most people. Because the truth is, we're more afraid of our own potential than we are of failure. Why? Because if we truly embraced our power, we'd have no excuse not to act, no excuse not to change, no more blaming the world, no more hiding behind "I don't know what to do." Power demands responsibility, and responsibility is heavy. But here's the twist. The moment you accept that burden, everything changes. You begin to see the world differently. You stop looking for permission. You stop waiting to be chosen. You realize that no one's coming to save you, and that's not bad news. That's the best news of your life, because it means you are the hero you've been waiting for. You are the one with the power to rewrite your destiny, not because it will be easy, but because it will be real. Let me ask you something deep, maybe the most important question you've ever heard. If you had to choose between a life of comfort and a life of meaning, which would you choose? And don't answer too fast. Sit with it. Feel it. because meaning always comes with pain. It's the pain of becoming, the pain of growth, the pain of shedding the old skin and stepping into a new self. But comfort is the slow death. It's the coffin lined with velvet. It feels good until it doesn't. Until one day you wake up and realize you've been asleep for years. I've met thousands of people chasing success, but very few chasing truth. And that's the difference between ambition and power. Ambition wants to climb the ladder. Power wants to burn the ladder and build a better world. Ambition plays the game. Power questions the game. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. If you want true power, you must be willing to unlearn everything that made you feel safe. You must risk being misunderstood. You must risk being alone. But loneliness isn't the enemy. Conformity is. Because the moment you give up your inner voice to fit in, you lose the very thing that could have changed the world. So many of us are waiting for a sign, a moment of clarity, a divine message telling us what to do. But what if that moment is this moment? What if the sign isn't out there but in here, in the ache you feel when you know you're meant for more, in the restlessness that won't let you settle, in the fire that refuses to die, no matter how much you try to drown it in distractions? That's your power speaking, and it won't go away until you listen. But here's the danger: if you ignore it long enough, it will go silent. And once you lose that voice, it's very hard to get it back. So I ask you again, are you ready to pay the price of true power? Because it's not for the faint of heart. The mirror of inner truth. Why facing yourself is harder than fighting the world. It's easy to point fingers. It's easy to say the system is broken, or they're holding me back, or life is unfair. And maybe all of that is true. But here's the uncomfortable reality. None of that matters until you have the courage to face yourself. Because the harshest war you'll ever fight isn't out there, it's the one raging inside you. You can fight governments, ideologies, even entire movements, and still sleep at night. But stare into the mirror, really stare, and you'll see something far more terrifying, the truth you've been avoiding your entire life. And that truth will either set you free or destroy the version of you that's been pretending for far too long. Why is it so hard to face ourselves? Because the mirror doesn't lie. It reflects every contradiction, every compromise, every time we said yes when we meant no. It shows us the masks we wear, the ones we've spent years perfecting to fit into a world that never really saw us. And the funny mask, the smart mask, the strong mask, the I've got it all together mask. But beneath all of them is someone raw, someone scared, someone who remembers who they were before the world told them who to be. And meeting that version of yourself isn't just emotional, it's existential. Because once you see who you really are, you can never go back to pretending. Here's something few people will tell you. The journey to true power begins not with action, but with awareness. And awareness starts with asking dangerous questions. Questions like, what am I lying to myself about? What am I pretending not to know? What dreams have I buried so deep that I've convinced myself they don't matter anymore? These aren't easy questions. They crack you open. They leave you exposed. But they are necessary. Because without them, you'll spend your life building a kingdom based on false foundations, then wonder why everything keeps falling apart. Most people spend their entire existence running from themselves. They distract. They numb. They chase validation, money, pleasure, anything but silence. Because silence is where the truth lives, and truth is painful. It shows you how much time you've wasted, but how many talents you've ignored, how many times you betrayed your own soul just to be accepted. But here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop running, the moment you face that pain, it stops being your enemy. It becomes your teacher, your guide, your compass. I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to feel this, not just hear it. When was the last time you were brutally honest with yourself? Not just about your goals, but about your fears, your patterns, your excuses. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and said, "This is who I am"? Flawed, scared, brilliant, unfinished, but real. That moment, that radical honesty, is the birthplace of transformation. Because until you own your story owns you. And no matter how far you rise, you'll always feel like a fraud if you're building on a version of yourself that isn't true. The mirror doesn't just show you who you are, it shows you who you could be. And that's equally terrifying, because potential is a burden. It whispers, "You're capable of more." And if you listen, you'll have to act. You'll have to let go of the comfort of being almost good enough and start living at the edge of your limits. And that edge, it's where power lives, real power. Not the kind that screams, but the kind that stands still, silent, unshakable, aligned. Here's a secret I've learned from both philosophy and life. The people who change the world aren't the loudest. They're the clearest. And clarity comes from self-confrontation, from doing the inner excavation that most people avoid, from sitting in the dark long enough to realize that you are the light. That's what true power is. It's not about bending the world to your will. It's about becoming so whole, so true, so you, that the world can't help but respond. So now I'll ask you, can you stand in front of the mirror not to judge, but to witness? Can you hold your own gaze long enough to meet the person you were always meant to be? Because until you do, no external power will ever feel real. The weight of freedom, why responsibility is the final gateway to power. Freedom sounds beautiful until you realize what it actually demands. Most people want freedom like they want a trophy, something to show off, something to post about, something to say, "Look at me, I'm living life on my terms." But freedom, real freedom, isn't glamorous. It isn't aesthetic. It's heavy. It's raw. It strips you of excuses and hands you the full weight of your own life. And that weight, that's responsibility, the final, most brutal, and most liberating test of true power. Because once you are free, there's no one left to blame, no system, no parent, no boss, no past. Just you, your choices, and the world you've chosen to create or destroy. Responsibility is not a punishment, it's a path. It's the moment you stop outsourcing your life to chance, fate, or other people's decisions. It's the realization that you are the author, the architect, the answer. And that's terrifying, because it means your pain is yours to heal. Your dreams are yours to pursue. Your time is yours to spend or waste. And that kind of sovereignty is overwhelming if you've spent your life being told what to do, where to go, and who to be. But it's also the only space where real power can exist, because power without responsibility is just illusion. It's noise, it's ego, but power with responsibility, that's creation, that's leadership, that's legacy. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. What part of your life are you still hoping someone else will fix? What are you secretly waiting for? A mentor, a miracle, a moment of clarity to save you from having to take full ownership of your choices? We all do it. We all have that little voice that says, if only someone would help me, or if the timing was better, or if I had more support. But here's the truth: no one wants to hear, no one is coming. And once you accept that, you're free, not the kind of freedom that feels good, but the kind that makes you good, thing that molds you in fire. That turns you from a victim of life into a force of nature. We live in a world obsessed with rights, what we deserve, what we're entitled to, what we're owed. But no one is talking about duties, about what we owe ourselves, about the sacred responsibility of being alive. You didn't ask to be here, but you are here. And that fact alone means something. It means you have a part to play, a truth to live, a purpose to fulfill. And the only way to honor that is to stop waiting for permission and start choosing your life consciously, intentionally, courageously. Responsibility isn't just about doing what's required. It's about doing what's right, even when no one's watching. It's about aligning your actions with your values, your time with your priorities, your life with your truth. It's about saying, if I fail, it's on me. If I succeed, it's on me. Either way, I own it. And that kind of ownership is rare. It's radical. Because we live in a culture that teaches us to deflect, to distract, to delegate our power to someone else. But if you keep doing that, you'll wake up one day and realize that the life you're living isn't actually yours. It's a copy, a performance, a ghost of what could have been. Here's something I've learned from people who walk in true power: they don't complain. Not because everything's perfect, but because they understand that complaining is a declaration of powerlessness. But instead, they respond. They take the hit, they process the pain, and then they act. That's what responsibility looks like in real time. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's steady. It's relentless, and over time it builds something unshakable, not just success, but integrity. And integrity is the foundation of all lasting power. So, the final question is this: are you ready to carry the weight of your own freedom? Are you willing to stop pointing fingers and start building with your own two hands? Because once you do, no one can take that power from you. Not because it's protected, but because it's earned. The revelation of power, how becoming your true self changes the entire world. There's a moment, and it doesn't come with fanfare or fireworks, when you realize you've stopped pretending. When the masks fall away, when the noise quiets down, and everything inside you aligns. You're no longer trying to be what others expect. You're no longer negotiating with your fears. You're simply you, not in the shallow sense of being authentic for applause, but in the sacred, dangerous sense of embodying your truth, no matter the cost. That is the revelation of true power. And when it happens, when you become unapologetically yourself, the entire world shifts. Not because the world changes, but because you do. And when you change, your energy changes. Your decisions change. Your relationships, your work, your presence, it all begins to carry a frequency that cannot be faked or replicated. Most people try to change the world by changing others, convincing them, correcting them, fixing them. But the deepest transformation always begins within. The person who has faced their own darkness, conquered their own fears, and accepted their own contradictions becomes a lighthouse in a storm. Not because they're perfect, but because they're whole. And wholeness is rare. It's magnetic. It speaks a silent language that says, I've been to the edge of myself, and I didn't run. Now I see you, and I won't flinch. That's the kind of power that can heal families, ignite movements, and break cycles that have lasted generations. But here's the part no one tells you. Becoming your true self isn't a one-time event. It's a constant surrender. A repeated choice to stay awake when sleep would be easier, to stay honest when lying would be more convenient, to stay soft when bitterness would feel safer. Because the greatest threat to your true self isn't failure, it's compromise. Each time you betray your truth to fit in, to avoid conflict, to be liked, you chip away at that power. And the world doesn't need more people who fit in. It needs more people who stand out by standing up for themselves, for others, for truth. But let me ask you something that could change everything. What would your life look like if you stopped hiding? If you stopped editing yourself to be more digestible, more palatable, more acceptable to people who don't even know who they are? What would happen if you showed up fully flawed but fearless, unsure but present, imperfect but powerful? That version of you is already inside. It's buried under years of conditioning, rejection, and fear. But it never left. It's waiting. And the moment you choose to live as that person, the world around you will recalibrate. You'll lose people. That's guaranteed. But the ones who stay, they'll see you, really see you, and they'll rise to meet you at that level of truth. You'll lose comforts, but gain clarity. You'll lose certainty, but gain conviction. And with that conviction, you'll begin to realize something wild and beautiful. You never needed permission, but you were never waiting for the right time. You were always the answer, hiding in plain sight. True power isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about becoming so deeply rooted in who you are that no storm can uproot you. It's not immunity from pain, it's intimacy with it. Not escape from struggle, but purpose through it. Because once you know who you are, you stop fearing the world. You start shaping it. And that's the final truth. When you become your true self, you don't just change your life, you give others permission to change theirs. You become a mirror for their own hidden power. A reminder that they too can rise, that they too can choose truth over comfort, responsibility over blame, freedom over fear. So I'll leave you with this question, the one that matters more than any other. Who would you be if you finally stopped pretending? Because that person, the real you, isn't waiting for the world to change. They're waiting for you to show up. That is the price of true power. Few are brave enough to accept it. But maybe, just maybe, you are.